Hello y'all, this is Nectar Space. Welcome to my channel, and for tonight will be another launch of Starlink 6-32. I'm your host, Nectar Space. I'm awaiting T0 for today's launch. Need an update for our T0. So I'm gonna wait for NSF to stream. So I reference. Here we go.
And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roger, planet.
Water towers, fly!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Bring in FD off. It's orange!
Oh my god!
Decollage. Look at that. Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You bet. Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Good evening. Once again, you are looking live at Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, where a Falcon 9 is once again ready to launch 23 more Starlink V2 mini satellites. And this booster is ready to add another, I believe, record here into the books. I am Sawyer Rosenstein. I will be your host for this evening/early morning stream here. And as always, I am joined by a veritable cohort of coherent co-hosts, including Ian Atkinson. Ian, how are you?
Doing great, Sawyer. Ready for a late night, but thankfully not too late night so far. Starlink, fingers and landing legs crossed. But yeah, another fun launch here around midnight Eastern time.
Yep. And of course, out in the field bringing us these views and surviving the mosquitoes is Max Evans. Max, how's it going?
Good morning, good evening, or good night, everybody, wherever you're watching from. And hello from a beautiful, almost morning on Florida Space Coast.
Anytime there's a rocket out at the Space Coast, it's beautiful, except during hurricane season.
That's
And-
also true.
Behind the scenes, pushing the buttons, pulling the levers, and making the magic happen is Patrick Cahoon. So we have a fun team for you tonight as we approach about T-minus 40 minutes now until tonight's launch. So we've got some really fun, exciting stuff for this one. Ian, let's start with the basics here, of course, first, of the mission itself. Can you give us a quick basic overview?
Yeah, so right now, as you mentioned, Sawyer, we're looking at Pad 40 here at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Now, for those unaware, Pad 40 is one of 3 Falcon 9 pads that SpaceX has, 2 in Florida and 1 in California. Slick 40 is really SpaceX's workhorse pad. It has been cranking out launch after launch with only a few days turnaround in between. So right now, Falcon 9 is going to be launching 23 Starlink V2 mini satellites into orbit in just under 39 minutes here. Now that's going to be placing them into an initial 285 by 293 kilometer low Earth orbit. Now that's a very low parking orbit just to deploy the satellites into for checkouts. And then after the satellites complete their checkouts, they will bring themselves up to a 530 kilometer circular orbit inclined at 43 degrees. So about a medium latitude orbit, nothing too crazy there. Now this is going to be flying, like you said, on Falcon 9 booster 1058. So the famous worm logo booster, the booster that has the best NASA logo on the side of it, is launching the mission tonight. Now, this will be its 19th flight after several. It's been about almost 4 years now. This booster has been active since May of 2020 when it launched SpaceX Crew Demo 2. So the first crewed mission that SpaceX ever flew was flown by this booster right here. So pretty important launch tonight. 19th flight of a booster. Like you said, I believe this is the first time that has ever happened. SpaceX continuing to break their own records here. So just some casually breaking records here at about 12:30 in the morning Eastern time. So that's what we'll be looking forward to tonight in just under 38 minutes.
Very casually, yes. And I do want to point out that it has both the worm and the meatball. Thank you very much.
You're right. So it has the best of both worlds.
There you go. Thank you, Hannah Montana.
I never watched that show. Moving on.
I think that's a song of hers. I don't know. I listen to classic rock music normally, so.
No, same here.
Anyway. So, of course, with this being the 19th flight, the goal is to recover it. And so, Max, what do we have downrange ready for this?
So stationed about 629 kilometers downrange in the ocean, swat the Bahamas, is the drone ship. Just read the instructions. Stationed, as I said, about 629 kilometers downrange. And tonight, the fairings will be recovered by SpaceX's fleet vessel, Bob. So, it's all seems very routine, and it is. But for some reason, tonight just has a different feel about it, being 1058 and all. If I may elaborate a little bit, 1058. Of course, as Ian has already stated, this will be its 19th flight, and it is already the Falcon 9 fleet leader from both coasts. We are pushing completely uncharted territory for Falcon, and we're not sure if SpaceX is pushing Falcon 9 to failure or if they are planning on retiring the boosters after 20 flights. Hopefully not. Hopefully they will keep going until Falcon 9. Well, hopefully they keep going to figure or what Falcon 9's flight limit would be. But with it being B1058 and all, with how it's probably the single most beloved booster in the entire fleet. Hopefully nothing goes wrong, and I don't want to set a precedent of something will go wrong. Well, we are in completely unknown territory with Falcon right now, so this may seem like on the outside just like any other Starlink mission, but it doesn't feel that way here.
That is a good point, and I know Julia has been advocating hard for this booster to survive and end up in a museum, because again, as you mentioned, this first mission for this was in 2020 when it launched Demo 2, which was the first time that astronauts had launched from American soil since STS-135, the final shuttle mission, in 2011. So a very historic booster already, and I'm advocating that hopefully they retire this one after 20, and we'll see if they continue others beyond 20 flights, but that's just my personal opinion on that. Now, I do want to acknowledge people that at the moment we will not be able to show your messages on the bottom of the screen because YouTube is being lovely tonight, but we can still see your questions if you tag them at NASA Spaceflight, and we are still seeing your super chats, I promise. So I do want to acknowledge Musical Wolves saying, for those out in the field, thank you for being outstanding to give us views. Get it? Outstanding and outstanding. I appreciate pun token for you, Musical Wolves.
Suck-ups.
Bruh.
Tonight, you just summarized tonight's stream in one word. Just saying. Bruh. Dalen Hardy gifted a Red Team membership. John Depker gifting 10 memberships. Sam Halter saying, really enjoyed the Firefly launch. Did the CRS mission return? Yes, CRS-29 returned earlier today with some of the science aboard the International Space Station that came back. So as of right now, again, Crew Dragon is currently the only vehicle that has, as they like to call it, downmass capability. Basically meaning they lift things up and bring them back. Others, they lift things up and kind of burn them up. So
Actually, if I'm not mistaken, splashdown occurred, like I think it was minutes from Firefly Alpha taking flight. I could be wrong, but
Yes.
I think it was in within 2 or 3 minutes, which was incredible timing.
That was correct, yeah.
Oh yeah. And then we have I'd rather be flying an X-wing. Oh no. Does this have a stubby nozzle or a real nozzle?
Pardon
Ian.
me, a real
Yeah,
nozzle.
so Max, I'm sorry, Max. I'm trying to answer this question. I'm trying to answer our viewers' questions. So this has a real Merlin vacuum nozzle. None of this like fake, half 1/3 Merlin, crap. This is the full Merlin nozzle on board. So no stubby nozzle here. This is the full Merlin vacuum nozzle. And if anyone's confused about what we're saying here, it's a running joke because SpaceX on their second stage is they have 2 types of nozzles for the Merlin vacuum engine. You have the regular nozzle, which is flying today, and the stubby nozzle. The stubby nozzle has a bit less performance, both a bit less thrust and a bit less efficiency, but it requires much less materials to make. And the materials to make the nozzle, which are a niobium alloy, are not only a rare material, and combined with Falcon 9's launch rate, you don't want to throw away too much of a rare material, but it's also expensive and it takes time to make. So they'll use a stubby nozzle when they don't need full performance to save some time, resources, and money.
I just saw someone in chat call it the NARF nozzle, like for Pinky and the Brain NARF, and I kind of love it. Sorry, Max.
No, you're not.
Correct, I'm not sorry. And then we've got one here from Andrew Berg saying, watching from an A320, should be able to see it from the air. Okay, that's awesome. To be able to see launches from the air, that's got to be really cool. So, I won't judge that it's an Airbus, but really nice. And Airbertac, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Pun tokens for Sawyer. Thank you for being here. Well, I very much appreciate the pun tokens. And the other thing that I appreciate is the numbering will finally be back on track, because we have had Starlink 6-31, 33, and 34. Tonight we're finally getting back on track with Starlink 6-32. And just a minor detail, but I do like that little aspect of it.
Also, Sawyer, something that I wanted to talk about really quickly, because we mentioned this is B1058. This is the fleet leader for Falcon. It's coming up, or this is going to be its 19th flight, which is breaking insane reuse records. My math is wrong. 8 years ago, last night, so now it's past midnight now on the East Coast. 8 years ago last night, the first Falcon 9 landed successfully. It was launched from this exact same launch pad. It was the Orbcomm OG2 mission, the 20th flight of Falcon 9. And on that mission, B1019, so think about that. We're looking at 1058 right here. B1019 was launched on its first flight, and it did the first ever successful return to launch site landing of a Falcon 9 booster, and the first recovery of a Falcon 9 booster at all. I just thought that was kind of fun how now on the kind of the day after the 8th anniversary of that, we're looking at another fleet leader kind of expansion here on the Falcon 9 fleet. And 8 years ago, most people in the industry, let alone I'm sure a lot of people at SpaceX as well, would be shocked to see how far along we are now with reuse and how Starship is now really hitting the ground running thanks to what Falcon 9 is doing on the the recovery front. And I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that was a really neat milestone and important date that we just passed.
I'm going to follow up on that in just a second, but I do want to acknowledge that we can see some frost on the vehicle, and SpaceX confirming propellant load has begun for tonight's launch. All systems and weather are currently go. Just wanted to acknowledge that. But in terms of a follow-up for that, hi, Jake. There we go. Sorry. Jake hopped on my lap for the 6th time already this stream. In terms of following up with that, I mean, I don't know. I totally forgot what I was going to say. That's what.
And it's fun, too, because looking back on that, 8 years ago, I was watching that in my basement. That was like one of the first rocket launches I ever watched live. And seeing that rocket land was the reason that I've now chosen to go into aerospace engineering. I'm about to graduate college now with that degree because of a launch 8 years ago last night of this rocket from this launch pad. It's so amazing to see things kind of wrapping on both like on an industry-wide thing, but also on like a bit of a personal note. And I don't know, it's really like touching to see that and think about that.
And yes, for those who are saying that Jake interrupted a pun, he did. I remembered both things I was going to say. First, it's quite appropriate that it was OG2 was the OG1 landing.
Okay.
No boy.
The second thing I was going to mention, though, is that we have this question here from Booster 13 saying, do you think we could see a newer version of Falcon 9? Because these boosters are pretty old, so they might start to not be as reliable as they used to be. And Max, I'm going to throw that one to you in a second, but I do want to mention that just a few days ago, they were finishing testing up B1083 at McGregor, Texas, which you can watch the testing McGregor Live 24/7. But in terms of numbers, you said that was, what, 1019, and now we're already creating booster 1083. But
Yeah.
what do you think, Max? Do you think there'll be a newer development, or do they just keep building more?
You know, I was actually going to mention how we were now in the low to mid 1080s now in terms of Falcon 9 first stage boosters. You know, SpaceX still is pushing boundaries on flights like this, and they are really pushing to see what these Merlin 1Ds can do in terms of their performance margins, and the data from that can be applied to future missions beyond Starlink. And that's actually how NASA and SpaceX have agreed to now perform a return to launch site trajectory with the first stage now for crewed and cargo missions. But in terms of seeing a brand new Falcon 9, other than brand new first stage is rolling production facility in Hawthorne, I don't think so, because, you know, to sound cliche, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And Falcon 9 has proven time and time again, especially this year having flown so much, that it is one of the most, if not the most, reliable and the quickest, or it is able to be turned around the quickest of any rocket in history. So I think at the moment, no. Beyond minor tweaks in the Merlins, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, once they've got to Falcon 9 Block 5 1.2, which is what we're currently seeing flying, I think they kind of realized, all right, we've got something that's working here, so might as well stick with it. So that's, yeah. What were you going to say?
I know that they've been doing, like, you know, minor tweaks and upgrades, because we've seen newer boosters have quicker turnaround times. Newer boosters have slight differences on, like, say, the bolt patterns for the intrastage or camera placement. They can loft more Starlink satellites into orbit. It's not like, we're not talking, like, you know, 5-10 tons of extra payload, but like squeezing out kilograms and maybe like half a ton here and there. And SpaceX has gone from launching, I think they started with 21 V2 satellites, now up to 23. And of course, that's in combination with lightening the satellites themselves. But there are some portions of that that are due to Falcon 9 improvements. And SpaceX has said there's going to be no Block 6. There's going to be no major upgrades. There's not going to be a Merlin 1E. But there are still minor tweaks here and there just to get what they can out of the system, while most of their engineering force is working on Starship and Starlink and Dragon.
And by the way, I should point out, not only are they lightening them, they're darkening them as well, so that they aren't as obtrusive in the night sky.
That makes my telescopes happy.
And it's also worth noting that SpaceX actually had to lock down the design of the Block 5 Falcon 9, I think 2 or 3 years before it first flew crew, satisfy certain NASA regulations and criteria. Because I don't think you want to keep flying astronauts on what would technically be an experimental first stage or rocket in the first place over and over and over again.
That's a really good point. Yeah, once a vehicle is crew rated, any major changes or significant upgrades, you've got to present it to NASA and all the people that will be flying people on it and basically recertify everything again. So, well, most things again, I should say. So that's also worth noting there. Alex Vives saying they should retire B-1058 after 20 flights and give her to either Kennedy Space Center or Smithsonian. I agree completely.
Yes.
I mean, right
Agreed.
now, Kennedy does have a booster. Space Center Houston has a booster. There is now a booster out in Colorado, I believe it is.
Yep. At the Dish Network headquarters in Denver, outside of Denver.
So it would find a good spot. I mean, Smithsonian might work, actually.
They
For Udvar Hazy.
I was about to say, I would love to see it like either next to Discovery or like, you know, hanging on the ceiling above Discovery, like how they have at Kennedy.
Oh,
Like, wouldn't that be amazing? Maybe even like landing legs deployed or something. I don't know. But They did previously offer a booster to Smithsonian, but they charged I think it was like $1 million or so for like transport costs and things along those lines, and that was just like too much for the Smithsonian at the time. Maybe they could do like a fundraising thing or save up some money for that, or maybe SpaceX eventually will be like, hey, we don't care, just take it. I want to see important vehicles to spaceflight like these preserved. And yeah, I think there's really nowhere better than the Smithsonian, especially the Udvar Hazy Center.
You mean
We're
$1
about
million?
T-23 minutes.
$1 million. I
But
did put
yeah.
my pinky in my mouth.
I did too. And another idea, I don't know if it would fit super well, but I'm sure Alicia would be happy to have one on the Intrepid as well. Just throwing it out there. Let's see here. We are now about 22 and a half minutes or so away from tonight's launch. I don't know if we actually went through the whole details of... I know we said it's going down range, but for those that are wanting to go out there to see it, Max, what is the trajectory tonight? And also, how's the weather looking down there, too?
So overall, it's heading on a 43 degree inclination tonight. So that means it is heading on a southeastern trajectory toward the Bahamas. So if you are south of Cape Canaveral, say Vero Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Miami area, assuming the weather is playing nice and you have clear sky, and if you look to the north, you should be able to see tonight's launch no problem at all. And it's also worth noting that if you are north of here, say in Daytona Beach or Jacksonville, you should also see it, but it will look a lot. The arch or the path of travel that Falcon 9 will take will look smaller than compared if you were south of the launch pad. And you should also be able to see it if you are over in the Tampa Clearwater area as well on a clear night, of course. So assuming weather plays nice, and assuming the weather plays nice wherever you are in Florida, there's a really good chance you might be able to see it.
And how is the weather by you at the Cape right now in terms of your ability to track the flight tonight?
Yeah, so weather for the most part today has been kind of gloomy, especially in the evening here. It was raining quite a lot. A front came in from the Atlantic and kind of got everything wet. Currently, there's still a bit of overcast. The moon is being out, but the east and toward the Atlantic, critically, the skies are looking a lot clearer, and the winds have died down substantially. There's a bit of a breeze coming out from the east right now, but I would say the weather and conditions tonight are trending in the right direction.
There we go. And yes, we did get the tweet earlier saying that so far weather is go. And in about 20 seconds or so, we really should get a good indication of the wind and how windy it is and what direction it's going, as we are now approaching the best vent. The T-minus 20-minute, 20-second vent. And as that vent is about to begin in 5 seconds, Trevor, first off, what is the best vent? And second off, why is it the best vent?
0.
Trevor.
Best vent start.
Trevor, I'm sorry, Ian.
Vent start.
I get we both have smooth, buttery voices, but man, I thought we were friends.
There you go.
Anyway, the vent that
I'm
you get to
sorry.
No,
Blame
you're
the
fine.
bookshelves.
I don't even know what that means, but I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that. So that vent coming from around the middle of the vehicle right there, and first off, either the wind is coming towards us or there is no wind. So that's a good indication right there. But either way, that is a T-minus 20-minute vent. Now that is when they're starting to chill down the transporter, clean out the lines as they are about to begin second stage liquid oxygen loading. Now this is about a 3 to 4 minute vent because liquid oxygen loading on the second stage starts at T-minus 16 minutes. So for the next 3 minutes and 37 seconds, we're going to see a bit of venting coming out of the middle of the transporter there. They're chilling down and cleaning out the lines with some inert liquid nitrogen before they start flowing liquid oxygen through those umbilicals up there. So that's a great indicator that we are on time in the countdown, and it is, like I said, this is a great kind of indicator that we are on time. There's no holds in the countdown, and that they're still continuing to launch in just over 19 minutes.
There you go. And Ian, I greatly apologize. Mr. Ian Atkinson here, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Sawyer.
You're welcome.
The Aries One fan club will forgive you.
Yeah, I may or may not have slandered them in the most recent ad that aired on Twist today, but yeah. Let's let's just say I'll admit it now. It wasn't an actual Ares 1X fan club letter. It was just a blank envelope. But I still don't always trust the Ares 1 fan club.
We're watching you. We're watching you.
Not surprised.
Oh.
Here's a great way to put this question, because now with the kind of smirking emoji here, Max, Kyler is asking, what are the 5 towers?
Oh, good lord. When I first joined the team back in March or April, on my very first stream, somebody asked the question, and I came down to the conclusion that the only sufficient answer to that question from here on out was just yes. But I'm feeling nice, and I will answer the question entirely. So the four kind of skinnier towers on the pad perimeter, those are towers designed and built to take lightning strikes away from the actual launch pad itself, or the launch pad structure where Falcon 9 sits. And they have catenary wires that run from the very tips, and they also link in between. And those wires run down to the ground to disperse the charge away from any of the systems and the tower and the rocket itself. And the brand new tower in the middle that is currently in a blanket of vapor right now from that T-minus 20-minute event is SpaceX's brand new crew access tower that was recently assembled here over the last 3 or 4 months. All of these segments were assembled rather quickly, actually, over at the Hangar X Roberts Road facility here at the Kennedy Space Center. And in what seemed no time at all, broadly speaking, compared to, I guess, the timeline of a whole year. They built the entire tower up, and then they eventually fitted the crew access arm, and now the tower looks to be nearly finished, if not completely finished. It is not yet operational. They have not flown crew from it yet. We are still waiting to see who and when that first crew will be and when they will fly. But that is SpaceX's brand new crew access tower over at Slick 40.
Yeah, normally, again, like you said, it's kind of a jokey question, but that's the first time I've ever heard it asked as the 5 towers now that we have the crew access tower there. So
yes,
I had to bring that up. Here's a question from, what do we have here? The MDW Aviator with a question. I'll pose it to everyone. How many more flights do you think this booster will fly? Ian, we'll start with you.
Ooh, that's a really tough one when you don't really have, insight into how the booster is even performing. I could see them retiring it at 20, just for, like you said, this booster is very historic. It's an important vehicle that did a lot of stuff for the American space program. It got the first U.S. astronauts off of U.S. soil in almost 10 years. So I could see them finishing up at 20, being like, okay, we learned a lot from this. It's an older booster. We've, improved a lot of things on newer boosters. But at the same time, I could also see them, just pushing it until either it fails to land, or they're like, okay, these tanks are structurally compromised at, say, 27 launches. We're not going to launch anymore. So I feel like they're going to push it, to be honest. Just keep going until there's too much of risk to even Starlinks to launch it.
How many do you think, Max?
It's kind of a difficult question to answer. I want to say that they will retire this booster specifically after 20 flights, but that's just me being optimistic towards this booster itself and wishing it would be put toward a museum. But what I think is more likely going to happen, SpaceX is going to, of course, recertify the boosters after, they are going to recertify this booster after 20 flights to see if it is sound to fly more. And then I would believe that they will push for 25 and then potentially 30, assuming it makes it to 25 successfully. But like I said earlier, we are in completely unknown territory with Falcon right now. And with this, I don't want to say older design, because it is, getting on towards 4 years old now. It's very, very similar to even the boosters made today. So imagine it should get through tonight, no problem. But I'm hoping they end up retiring it. They end up retiring it after 20. If not after 20, then I would say probably upwards of 25 to 30 flights.
Yeah, I'm hoping this one ends at 20, because you still have, I believe it's 1061, that is at 18 flights as well.
1060, and I think that one's
1060.
holding at 17 flights. Yeah.
Yeah, so you've got one that's pretty darn close to that amount of flights. I think my personal thing would be to retire this one at 20, and then maybe keep pushing the next one, though, for 25 or 30.
Yeah, they haven't flown 1060 in a minute, which is quite peculiar because with the last few flights, especially up to and past 15, 1060 has always followed 1058 flying, and it hasn't, of course, these last couple of times. So it makes you wonder if they found something in either the tank structure or the thrust puck or the motor lines or something in 1060 that either needed much more time to repair or refurbish. If they have just flat out retired it and scrapped it already, we don't know. But we do know that we haven't seen the booster or 1060 out here at the Cape in quite a while. So it makes you wonder.
Yeah, I just looked it up on Next Space Flight's reuse page, so shameless plug there. They have every single Falcon booster and every single reusable spacecraft that's ever flown, and 1060 this year has flown in early January, mid-July, and mid-September, and that is it. So pretty low flight rate this year for 1060, and I like you said, Max, I wonder if they found something or if they're just not really prioritizing refurbishment because they have better boosters to work on. I'm not really sure.
And it's so weird because that last flight in September feels like last week, but here we are, almost at the very end of 2023. So with this fast cadence, time goes by really fast.
And then meanwhile on the West Coast, 1061, which is one of the West Coast boosters, flew in early March, late April, late May, late August, late October, and early December. Like that's been just grinding stuff out for an early booster. That's pretty impressive, I think. But I digress.
Yeah, like you're saying, so the last flight of B1060 was September 23rd, 2023. This booster is only 49 days since its last flight, so that would mean November 3rd of 2023, just kind of for reference there. We are continuing to count down now 11 and a half minutes till the scheduled liftoff of the Starlink 6-32 mission. And I do want to thank some more support here. Kyle Trick saying, Austin Powers! Yes, they are fantastic movies, gotta say. Then we have Steve Kalovic, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, who gifted 10 NSF memberships. Thank you very much for doing that. And then, Max, I think this is a good question for you and I here. McGregor cows versus Cape alligators. Thoughts from John Depker?
I think the alligators would be very happy to have food. So,
Ooh.
Yeah, I hate to be morbid, but that's just the way nature rolls. So I think the alligators would be very happy to have food.
Oh, for sure. And John Depker, thank you again, a name we see often here for the support tonight. Apologies that we can't show him on screen, but still very, very appreciative of that.
About T-minus 10 minutes.
Here's a really good question. And Max, I'll put this one to you, because, again, we've seen kind of the booster processing a bunch. How long does it take to get a rocket out of the building where they build them, so in the HIF in this case, to the pad to launch them? And that's from Jonathan Coleman.
Oh boy, I don't have an exact timeline on it. I think the fastest turnaround we've seen from a booster would be, I think Alex should be in the back channel here, helping us out a little bit if he's there. I want to say it's around 20 to 25 days for a booster turnaround. And that was when they were really cranking out turnarounds, either I think it was early this year or late last year. They haven't had the need to do that as of late, I think towards the second half of this year, because the fleet of Falcon 9 boosters they have here it's a very large fleet, especially compared to launch sites like Vandenberg. It can be as little as I think 20 to 25 days. But in terms of boosters that are as worn or as flown as 1058 or 1060, it can be upwards of 2 to 3 months just to go over and look for any microfractures in the tanks, make sure all the engines are still operating properly, checking over all the systems, the hydraulics, the grid fins, the interstage, the second stage pusher. So much to look over, but the newer boosters, I'm sure, are far easier to refurbish and recertify for flight. And I'm sure 1058 and 1060 are probably, I would assume, probably not the easiest. So it takes anywhere from, I think, 20 days to 3 months.
There we go. And I mean, once it gets into the HIF, the horizontal integration facility, and they mate the payloads to it, I mean, they can roll it out the same day as launch. But
If they
getting
really
to
wanted
that point
to,
takes a while.
yes, absolutely, and that's what they have been doing with the Starlinks, is that the rockets for Starlinks will be going vertical anywhere from 3 to 6 hours before launch, and for other launches for other customers, that can be anywhere from 12 hours to a day. So these Starlinks are really showing how rapidly that they can put Falcon 9 together and roll it out and send it into the sky. So anywhere from 3 to 6 hours, I would assume.
It's gotten a lot quicker, that's for sure. It used to be out there for days, but then again, they're also averaging sometimes 3 days or so between launches. So obviously, it's getting a lot quicker at getting it out there, getting it vertical, and getting it ready. We are now about 7.5 minutes away from the scheduled liftoff, and at 7 minutes is when the engine chill down begins. So, Ian, why do we chill the engines?
Yeah, so this actually goes into a bit of material science here. So if you think about it, if you have like a really hot plate, say a really hot glass plate, you don't want to pour cold water over that plate because that will crack or it'll shatter the plate even. That's thermal shock. And what we're really looking at here is kind of that, but on a much, much larger scale. So these engines here are made out of metal. They're made out of an Inconel alloy, which is it's a very thermally resistant alloy, great for use in engines. And the problem arises if you suddenly slam liquid oxygen into the cooling vanes on the engine. Now, the outer nozzle of the engine, the outer wall of the nozzle, has kind of fluid pipelines inside the wall of the nozzle. That's what's called regenerative cooling. And what they do, they will flow liquid oxygen around those or is either liquid oxygen or RP1? I can't believe I'm forgetting this now. But either way, they'll flow a propellant through the outer walls of the engine to cool the nozzle so the nozzle does not melt. Now, what they're doing here, they're beginning to flow liquid oxygen through the nozzle and through the engine to slowly chill it down to temperature. So it's
Alright, I'll be your host for T-minus 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and 6 minutes for today's launch. As you're hearing, this is Booster 1058. Booster 1058, the lead head of Falcon 9 boosters. Wow. It is 4 years old. The last launch was, this booster is coming the next milestone for this booster as it gets a decade and a half year old. A decade and a half. A decade is 10 years. And it's coming up on having a half of a decade. That is amazing for a booster. That's only supposed to fly once. But as SpaceX says, if you can reuse it, reuse it. If you can't, you can't. Or as I like to say. But mainly, it's just insane how they reuse and refurbish these boosters. Well, we're in the terminal count for today's launch. Let's listen in. We're coming up on 3 minutes and 30 seconds. We're gonna finish up locks loading and all the loading, RP1 loading on the vehicle. Well, RP1 loading is already completed. You just need the oxidizer to ignite the kerosene, which you need to spin up your turbo pumps and your fuel and your you need to spin up your oxidizer with a turbo pump and your kerosene in the turbo pump. So you would flow that through your pre-burner. Your pre-burner would exhaust, and you would have all the thrust would come through the nozzle, which the turbo pumps would spin it all the way through the pre-burner and all
Stage 1,
into
locks
the
load complete.
nozzle. We got stage 1 locks load complete. I'm gonna test some new stuff today on the next Starlink launch on Starlink 6 35. You can expect some high performance streaming. I can show you that. I'll be, since y'all need to enjoy this, I will cut down on my logos you see on here.
Stage 2, locks load complete.
I'll just show my terminal count until T0. Ground gas closeouts. Startup. Ground gas closeouts. Or about.
Ground gas closeouts.
There we go. There's the calls for ground gas closeouts. At 1 minute, I'll switch over to the other feed. That'll be a new thing I do. When we lose track of the rocket, we will use SpaceX's stream. So this will be more of an interesting thing. T-minus 1 minute.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
Startup mode. As you heard there, Falcon 9 is in startup.
Go for launch.
There you go. We got the final go for launch. The stream is a little bit delayed, so you will see liftoff 10 seconds early. But as usual, I'll follow along. I will do the terminal count for you. Godspeed, booster 1058. Expected one of your last flights, booster 10. T-minus 10, 9,
15,
8, 7, 6, 5,
T-minus
4,
10,
3,
9,
2,
7,
1, 0.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff of Falcon 9. Go Falcon, go Starlink.
Woo! Clear the towers. Go Falcon. Go Starlink. Go Booster 1058. Go Meatball. Let's listen in for that
Chamber
rumble.
pressures are nominal.
Booster 1058 roars for the first time in a month and a
Falcon is supersonic.
supersonic. I'll be now switching over to SpaceX's stream after 10 more seconds. Alright. Come up on some vents happening in a few seconds.
Miko.
Stage separation confirmed.
MVAC startup.
There you go. You see the MVAC engine nozzle ignite. We should get grid fins deployed. Grid fins are deploying. Get ready for fairing separation.
Fairing separation confirmed.
There you go, fairing separation. See those batches of Starlink satellites? Ooh, I want to thank y'all for amazing support. I almost have about 60 subscribers. Y'all, it's been 3 months almost, and this is a big improvement for me. Yeah, I've just started out. Thank y'all guys so much. This means a lot to me.
Both vehicles are on a nominal trajectory.
I really mean it. This means a lot to me. Like, it's a lot to take in. Like, 45 subscribers, 12 subscribers on my other channel, 3 subscribers on my other channel, which is about 60 subscribers almost. That's a big milestone for me. By the end of the year, I plan to hit 60 subscribers or 70 subscribers, or half of 65 or 670 and 60, which would be 65, 6 in the middle of it. So by the end of this year, I reach 100 subscribers or something. I would really, really like to hit 100 subscribers, but I'll be posting more high quality content this time. Instead of being a little bit bad, I'll make it way more better and more smoother. New intros, new smoother scenes, better transitions, and more visibility, and more longer, and more enjoyment, and more talking. I will be bumping up my time on my streams for NSF's length.
Both vehicles
space
continue
flight
to follow
now.
a nominal trajectory.
I'll either keep the stream lengthy to 1 minute, 1 hour and 30 seconds or 30 minutes. I'll keep it to that brim. But like if it's a star-based testing, then I'll kick it up a little bit. But for now, yeah. Here's an event that we're coming up on is entry burn. So we should get the call up for FDS safing on the first stage. This is booster 1058. So yeah.
Stage 1 FTS has safed.
FTS is safe. Getting ready for entry
Stage
burn.
1 entry burn startup.
There we go.
Stage 1 entry burn shut down.
Entry burn shut down.
Stage 2 FTS has saved.
Amazing view. Like I said, more
Stage 1 and
transitions.
Stage 2 on nominal
If
trajectories.
nothing's happening on the first stage, I will transition to the second stage and make it more cooler. If y'all were to say, just per se, I would show the second stage. It's more activity, and if it blows up, I would need to show y'all for just reasons. I have over 10,000 views. Let me say again, for me, y'all might not think it's that much, but from different perspectives, other YouTubers might have 1 million views, and it's normal for them, but for small YouTubers like me, it's a lot.
Stage 1 transonic.
And every view means matters. Booster 1058 will be landing for the 19th time. It pops possibly after this. This will be the second to last flight.
Stage 2's in terminal guidance.
Terminal guidance.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Grid fins are moving. We should get a view from the second stage.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
Landing confirmed.
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
All right. Should get MVAC shut down.
MVAC shut down.
All right, MVAC shut down. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. Now I'm gonna park orbit. Goodbye.